Hello, folks. So, in this video, let's talk about pricing a bit, right? Pricing is a very complicated and complex thing, but then I'll try to talk about whatever I know, some basics that I have learned based on my experience and what I have learned from others also, from online or books or whatever, right? um, Pricing, money. So long ago, I made videos around demand and supply and how I see a lot of things or almost every problem as a demand supply problem. Someone or something, like say organization or whatever, needs something, and then someone else or something, say an organization or whatever, or a machine or whatever, provides that thing, right? Supplies. So there's a demand and then there's a supply. So, how does pricing now work in between? Usually, people trade, right? I mean, I think how money started out. I don't know too much, but I just know that how money started out was in those days you used to do. I think it's called barter trading system, wherein let's say you have rice and someone else has wheat. You basically give some amount of rice and you don't have wheat and you want wheat, and the person who has wheat doesn't have rice and they want rice. You basically give some amount of rice to them and then they give you some amount of wheat. So the thing is, I mean, how much amount of rice do you give, and then how much amount of wheat do you get? It's all about, like, you basically trade, you discuss. It's a business transaction. You discuss and then you exchange, right? This is just an example. So now the thing is, now let's say you don't have rice or wheat, or the person who has wheat doesn't want rice but wants something else that you don't have, but you want wheat, right? So now, but then they need to go, but then you have something for the person who actually has wheat, like who actually say, let's say the person who has wheat wants let's say they want bananas, let's say, but then you don't have bananas, you have rice. Now what you do is you can probably go to a person who has bananas and give them rice and then get the bananas, or ask the person who has bananas to just give it to the person who has wheat, and then you get the wheat from them. So it's like a three-way transaction, right? So you basically try to manage what you have and what you don't have, and you exchange, right? So now, instead of doing so much work, you look at what is the amount of work that is required to make this rice, right? Or what is the value of this rice? Now you create a value, you create something called money, you create a value for this rice, and then you say, I will sell this rice to someone who needs rice. How much are they value that? They'll give me money, right? There's some count, there's some number to that value. More the number, more the value, let's say. Just an example. So then, and we call that money, and then you get that, and anyone can buy anything using that money, that value, right? And then you basically go and give the person who has wheat this money, and then the person who gets the money sells the wheat, gets the money, and then goes to someone who has bananas or whatever they need and gives them money, and then gets the bananas, and then the person who has bananas got some money, they can go and get whatever they need with the same amount of money, right? Like, but then of course, um uh like, if you think about value, right, it's a very subjective term, right? Because how much I value, let's say, 100 rupees uh may not be the same as how much someone else values 100 rupees, right? Like, for example, I go ahead and say I have 1 kg of rice, and someone else has 2 kgs of wheat, and someone else has 3 kgs of bananas, let's say. Now I go ahead and give my 1 kg of rice to someone and get 100 rupees, let's say. Now for 100 rupees, let's say I get 3 kgs of bananas, right? And now I go and give that 100 rupees to the person who has wheat, who wants bananas, right? I go and give that 100 rupees and they give me 2 kgs wheat, right? For 100 rupees. So it's kind of like rice is more worth in terms of like less amount of rice, that is 1 kg of rice has the same value as 2 kgs of wheat, right? So and that is the same as 3 kgs of bananas, let's say, right? Like you can buy 3 kgs of bananas with that, right? Let's assume, right? Now the thing is, someone else who has bananas can be like, I'll give only 2 kgs of bananas for 100 rupees because my bananas are more sweeter, and I think that has more demand, and I think that is more valuable. And let's say I'm the buyer of the bananas, and I'll be like, I don't want more sweet. I'm not so much into sugar because even if it's natural sugar, I don't want the natural sugar to be too much. So I'll be like, I just want the bananas to be nutrient dense, and I don't want it to be like very sweet. So I just want the good things about natural fruits, which is the nutrients, and less of the not so needed or required stuff, which is the natural sugar. So I'll be like, I don't want that. It's fine. So my value for that 2 kg banana is less than 100, because I'll be like, why do I have to pay 2 kgs bananas, which is more sweeter? Why do I have to pay 100 rupees for that? I would rather pay, say, some nutrient dense bananas, which is 3 kgs or 2.5 kgs or whatever, or 1.5 kgs. I would rather buy that. I would never, even if they gave me the 2 kgs of bananas with sugar for free, I wouldn't get it. I'll be like, this is not good for me. I'll be like, no, I don't want it. Or what I can do is I can take it and sell it to someone else. I can take it, but I won't use it. I know that I don't value it, but then I'll take that and sell it to someone else. And I know it's not, I've spoken about this, but I know that it is valued by other people, but just not by me. So I'll just buy it and sell it to someone else for more money or something like that, right? And yeah, I can do that if I want. I can trade like that. So the thing is, now basically the person selling 3 kgs of bananas for 100 rupees. Let's forget the amount of money, like the 100 rupees money, right? Let's forget that. Let's say we were doing barter trading, and if I give 1 kg of rice to the person who gives me 3 kgs of bananas, let's say they actually give me only 1 kg of banana. They're like, my 1 kg of banana is worth 1 kg of rice, right? And I'll be like, okay, so I'll give them 1 kg of rice and they'll give me 1 kg of banana. I go to the person who has wheat, they have 2 kgs of wheat, right? And they want actually 3 kgs of bananas, by the way. But then I have only 1 kg of banana, right? So I give them 1 kg of banana. So 3 kgs of bananas is 2 kgs of wheat. So I just give 1 kg of banana. So I just get 2/3 wheat, right? 2/3 kg, which is 2/3 kgs of wheat, right? So now if you look at it, in the barter trading system, this person said, I'll give only 1 kg of banana, right? Similarly, like basically they're saying 1 kg of banana, and then they're saying like this person who wants bananas wants 3 kgs of bananas. Everyone's idea of value is different, and what they're giving, what they're willing to actually give, what they're willing to sell for, like the value of the thing that they have, and then the value of the thing that they're getting, it's all different, right? It's a very complicated system. So now you put money to it. Now I'm saying my 1 kg of rice is 100 rupees. That's what I'm valuing my rice, right? Is it the same as how much I'm valuing something else, let's say bananas or wheat? Maybe I value wheat a bit more, right, than my price. So I'll be like, I will get less than 1 kg of rice or whatever, like that, right? For 100 rupees, or like I kind of see it valuable in terms of weight to cost ratio or whatever, right? Like, like for less weight, uh, it'll be more, for more weight, it'll be more costlier than rice. Let's say 1 kg of wheat is probably more than 150 rupees. That's how much I value it. Like, I'm willing to give that much. So it's all about how much you're valuing something and how much you're willing to give, right? And because, like, how much you're willing to give, because how much you are in demand of it or how much you value it, right? So the demand, the value, and then this is the supply, right? The person who is actually trying to give their product or their service, and how much they value it, and how much they see other person's perspective of value. So it's all about that. Like, for example, if I have a bottle that I got for 100 rupees, do I actually go ahead and sell it for 100? Let's say if I'm selling it again, well, someone might just, if they get to know that I actually got the bottle and they can just get the bottle from the same place where I got it for 100 rupees, they might just go ahead and get it, right? But if I sell it for, let's say, 80 rupees, that's a loss for me, but then someone might just get it, assuming it's a new bottle. But then let's say I sell it for 120 or 150 rupees. The other person, if they actually value it and they be like, yeah, this makes sense. This is 150. I think it's worth it. So it's the worth, the value, the worth, the price. Like, how the value is just in your head. The worth, the value, how much you value it. Worth is basically about, for this cost or for this much that you give, is it worth it to get what you get, right? Like, does it make sense to get what you're getting for the price that you're paying? It can be anything, money or whatever, right? So worth, so there's value, and then the actual price that the other person is saying, right? And how much you see that, hey, this matches, I get it. So it's a very, very tricky problem. Like, for example, I can sell this bottle for 150 and someone else will be like, I can probably get this for 100. Either they'll bargain and then I'll just be not having a loss or a profit. It'll just be like nothing, assuming I didn't do anything extra to just sell the bottle. But people do extra things. For example, they set up a shop, they try to acquire customers by doing marketing, they spend money on all of that. So you need to actually get back all that money that you spent. So, and they pay for employees if you have employees and whatnot. This is just one bottle, right? So you have a lot of money going out and burning for paying your employees, for doing marketing, for setting up office where you have lights, electricity, basically, and then you have water to give people, you have food to give people, and then I don't know, you have, let's say, people these days always use computers, so you have laptops or desktops, right? So a lot of things, and then yeah, I mean, a lot of the money goes to the people, like paying the people, the employees, right? And you pay rent for the office where you're setting up, or you basically buy that office. There's a lot of initial upfront investment, right? Capital investment, lot of upfront capital that you need, right? So it will be an investment assuming you get the value for all that upfront capital. But if it's waste, it's not an investment. So yeah, you have to see that how you see it and how it ends up. You see it as an investment, but how does it end up? So you expect it to be an investment, but how? And you think about it like that, and you buy it. How does it end up? Or even when you rent it, right? So all of that. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like pricing, worth, demand, and supply and whatnot, like, value, worth. So usually, let's say I have this bottle for 100 rupees. Let's look at the demand and supply, right? For example, let's say I have only one person who wants this bottle, and I'll just sell it for 100. It's easy, right? But then what happens when the demand is really high and the supply is pretty low? Usually that's the case in the world, right? Like there are very scarce resources or very limited amount of resources, be it food, water, air, right? It's like limited. It's just so, I mean, I don't know much, but I believe the water is limited. There's only a limited amount of water that we have. There's no new water getting created from what I know. At least that's my assumption. Let's assume, like, similarly, there are some resources. For example, there is gold. Let's assume that you can't create gold. I don't know. Like, how do you create gold using chemical compounds and whatnot? Let's assume that it's like the atomic thing and you can't create it. It's like the most smallest unit of whatever the thing is, right? And it's limited. And when a resource is limited, um, now the supply is limited basically, right? Then what happens is, if the demand is too much, or if the demand is just like, how do you divide your resource to the demand? Like, let's say I have one bottle and one person wants it, great, I'll just give it to them. Let's say two different people want it and they want the same bottle and they don't want to share it. That's going to be tricky, right? Like, they don't want to share it, I need to sell it, both of them want it, I can sell it to one of them and the same 100 rupees, or I can be like, I'm going to increase the cost of this bottle. Whoever has more money can actually get this resource, can get this bottle. So basically, a lot of times money is used as a way to actually filter out and let the people who have more money to get the resource, because the resources are limited and you don't know how much to give each person. Now you use money as your way to actually filter out and be like, whoever has money can get this resource. But then the tricky thing is, let's say I have this bottle and 100 people want this bottle, right? And if I increase the cost of this 100 rupees bottle to, let's say, let's assume that I have 100 bottles and I can give all these 100 people the 100 bottles. Then each person I can, let's say, I sell it to them for 150, like 50 rupees is the profit. 100 people, so 5,000 rupees, right? So now instead of selling this one bottle which costs 100 rupees, but I'm selling it for 150 to one person, and 100 people need it, if I actually sell it for 5,000, I can actually get, because 100 people need it, right? Now whoever has more money can come and get my bottle, so I just make the price of this bottle is 5,000. If someone gets it, great. So now I get the profit of 100 people who wanted this bottle, but then whoever has the money, so I just increase the money, whoever has the money can just buy it, and I get the profit that I would have got it for 100 people, right? But then the interesting thing is, if I actually increase the price to 5,000 from 150 or whatever, which is the value I initially had in my mind, and then I increase it to 5,000, maybe no one will buy it, right? No one has that much amount of money, or no one has that much like, no one has the idea of like buying a bottle for 5,000, because according to them it's not worth it, right? According to them it's like not valuable, right? So it's like it's not valuable or it's not worth it. Like, why do I have to pay 5,000 for this simple bottle? Like, they don't see the value in it. They're like, I can get a different bottle and I'll be satisfied with it, and I'll be happy with it. So now how do you increase the price? So it's a very tricky problem. Like, 100 people need it, you have a single bottle. Either what you can do is you start thinking about just selling that bottle for 150 for now, and since you know that 100 people want this, you increase your supply basically, right? Instead of increasing the cost of it. Or you can do both. You can increase the cost of it to some extent, but not so much that no one will buy it or no one wants to buy it. Because let's say from 150 to 250 or 300 or 400, and be like, someone who has the money will buy it. Instead of giving it to one person for 150, I'll give it to some other person who has more money and who is actually like valuing it more, who thinks it's worth it, or valuing it, but like kind of related but not exactly the same, I think. But they value it a lot, and they see the worth. They are like, for 400 this is worth it. Like, I'm getting something that is worth it. Like, I value it for this much. I value it for 500, and I'm getting it for 400. Great. It's like a dirt cheap thing. Or I'm valuing it for 400, and I'm getting it for 400. It's worth it. Or I'm valuing it for 1,000 and I'm getting it for 400. Wow, great. It's an offer for me, right? So yeah, I mean, you increase it to some extent. The next thing, best thing you can think about is, how do you increase the supply? I mean, in this case, it's a bottle. To create a bottle, I could create a bottle myself, or I could just get it from somewhere and start redistributing the bottle instead of me manufacturing it myself, and create a lot of bottles, and whoever wants it can just come and get it from me. And I know that there's a lot of demand, so I'll actually satisfy that demand. I'll supply for that demand, and I'll be like, hey, I have 150 rupees bottles. I have hundreds of them. I have thousands of them. I have lakhs of them. You can come and get it, right? And the other thing people do is, you can sell a simple bottle, because a lot of people won't buy just a simple bottle, very simplistic, very simple looking and whatnot, very simple quality or whatever. Like, how much are they value? They might be like, I won't pay 1,000 rupees for this bottle. I'll probably pay 250, 350, whatever, right? Or 150, that's all. So now what you do is, 100 people want it, but you have only one bottle, and they will not buy it for anything more. No one is going to buy it for more than 150. So now what you do is, you try to understand, does it make sense to get a lot of bottles and supply for this demand, and like satisfy this demand? Does it make sense to get hundreds of bottles, like acquire it, right? Procure it, basically get it from someone else, or manufacture it yourself? And then, does it make sense? Is it profitable for the business to actually sell it for 150, and let's say your cost price was 100, and you get 50 rupees per bottle? That's a very small cost. Like, I mean, I'm assuming it's a small, it depends on who is selling, right? And what is their idea of money, and what time it is. Like, today in 2024, like, 50 rupees is not a big deal in my view, right? Probably for a beggar, they'll be like, wow, 50 rupees, I can get some one meal, two meals, three meals, whatever, right? Or meals for multiple days, and three meals every day. And so, depending on how much they spend on some single meal and whatnot. And what meal means for them. So, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like, for 100 people, 50 rupees each person profit, so it's like 5,000. Does it make sense for my business to actually be running a business, where you get 5,000 by selling it to 100 people? And maybe it's not enough. Maybe you want to sell it to more people and make the profit sensible, and you probably find lakhs and lakhs of people to sell it to, with a small profit, or I think they call it as margin. With a small profit, but then you have lots of customers. Small profit per customer, but then you have a lot of customers. So now the scale is pretty high. I think they call this as economies of scale, or economy of scale. I don't know much, but yeah, it's an interesting idea, right? So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to talk about these stuff, like, wherein the value, the worth, like how much you give and how much you get, the proportion of that, the worth. You give less and you get more, or you give some amount and you get the same amount, like the value terms in your perspective, then it's worth it. So, and then pricing, and then the demand and supply, and how money is used to actually filter out and be like, who has more money, they can get this, instead of like too many people wanting the same thing, and selling it for less money. Too many people want it. If they value it, maybe increase the price, and if they value it, they'll get it. Or you have to decrease the price, yeah. Or you'll have to just increase the supply and be like, let people get it for lesser price, but then more people get it, so you can still make profits, but then assuming you can try to increase the supply. So yeah, I mean, how can you see this in the world? I mean, everywhere. Like, for example, some restaurants are really crowded because you know, it's probably really good quality, people really value it, and people really find the worth in it, and to pay some minimal amount of money, and they find it dirt cheap, worth it and dirt cheap, and like, they get a lot of value, and they pay less, at least in their view, or they pay the right amount, and or they pay a bit more than what they value it, um, and or they pay a bit more than what they would generally, because they value it, and like it's a good place, it's a good shop, good quality, or whatever, multiple reasons, good food and whatnot, and hence a lot of people are coming in, right? A lot of it's affordable for a lot of people, so a lot of people come in. Now the same restaurant can actually sell their food for a costlier price, and there'll be less people coming in, right? But then people would still come in, assuming they value that place. Let's say some people value quietness, so for which the number of people in the restaurant should be less. It should not be crowded. It should not be like hustle, hustle, rush, rush. There should be no rush hour. So there should be enough space to walk around, to sit and talk, and for no one else to be able to hear you, right? So in posh restaurants where it's really, really expensive, the food, right? There you'll notice that the food is pretty expensive. It's not really worth it to actually pay for that much for a food, but you're not actually paying for the food. You're actually paying for the space. You're renting for the space. You're renting the space. You're paying money to spend time there, and you know they will not annoy you by asking you to leave quickly once you're done eating, because you're actually paying them a lot of money, and you're mainly paying not just for the food, you're paying for renting the space for some time, and for all the amenities over there. Say it can be wi-fi, it can be the very clean washroom, and also the idea that there are less people in the restaurant because it's pretty costly, and you want less people, you want that quiet, right? So you don't want too many people, coming in, rushing, and some people also expect class. So, you don't want beggars or who are like very people with less money coming in, because according to you, like, I mean, I am also sometimes like that. Like when I think how money, like when you have more money, you are at a different class, you are more mannered and things like that. Usually, not always the case, of course. I know brats, rich brats. I usually see that a lot of people who are kind um, have money, but of course, people who don't have money are also kind. But then there are a lot of times, in a lot of cases, where kind and have class and manners, and then are empathetic and all. But then I've also seen that when people are bad, there are two kinds of people who are bad. Just a simple categorization, but either they have money or they don't have money, and probably there are lesser people who have money and are bad, like in terms of manners and all. I don't know. I'm just assuming, but then someone might be like, I will only go to a place where people have money, and like the other customers who are visiting the place have money, right? And you assume that the place that you're going to um, asks the same amount of money from everyone, right? And it's pretty expensive for everyone, not just for some people. So people who visit there, they'll be like, if someone's coming here, they have a lot of money, at least at this point in time, uh, right? They have money and they're coming in. So I mean, you'll just assume that less people will come in, and only people who have money, which is like a few percentage of people, because that's how wealth is actually distributed, because not everyone has a lot of money, right? So yeah, I mean, pricing, you can use it to reduce the crowd, and some of your customers might actually want less crowd and less noise, and they might want to be um, customers of a restaurant that has other customers who are also having enough money, right? So it's like the class, and you want to actually cut out the crowd and whatnot, right? Based on money, of course, that need not be the only way you actually cut out the crowd or filter out, but that's one way that people might want to do it. And restaurants will also be like, okay, cool, whoever has money can actually come in, and you can actually eat in our restaurant. We'll actually price our food really, really expensive way, and we'll have a great infrastructure, great space, air conditioned, great, very well mannered and English speaking or whatever language you are comfortable with, any language speaking people who work there and whatnot, and very well mannered and kind. And like, kindness is actually a business, right? Hospitality, basically restaurants are all about hospitality, so the amount of hospitality you provide is, that's the main thing. So yeah, I mean, interesting ideas. So yeah, that's all I had for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.